Welcome to Moments with Marianne. Allow me to interrupt your train of thought with something that may be one of the most interesting things you hear today. This is Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Dr. Patricia Muehsam, and she's here to share with us her new book, Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Patricia Muehsam, MD, a pioneer in the synthesis of science, holistic health, and contemporary spirituality, has distinguished herself as a practitioner, educator, and research scientist, and has been an influential force in shaping the landscape of healthcare options available today. Dr. Muehsam is the founder of Transformational Medicine, a whole health approach to health and well-being, offering tools and resources for individuals and communities in person and online. So let's welcome to the show, Dr. Patricia Muehsam.
Thank you, Marianne. Thanks so much for having me.
You know, my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your book. I found it to be just such an impactful book. I got to ask you, what inspired you to write this?
I was inspired by both my personal journey and my kind of deep desire to put ideas out into the world that I'd been traveling with for a long time, ideas about health and healing, ideas about reality and life. My personal journey of experiencing illness, my personal journey of bearing witness to miraculous cures, my personal journey of bearing witness to phenomena that defy classical physics and how we typically understand space and time and consciousness, my personal journey, and then as well, my deep desire to put information out there into the world to empower people, hopefully to empower people to be able to claim and reclaim their lives, claim and reclaim their health, and claim and reclaim what I've come to learn is truly an effortless way to navigate whatever's going on in our lives, whether it's a health issue or a challenging situation, that all can come easily, effortlessly, without struggle. And this was what I wanted to put out into the world. So it was my personal experience and my deep desire to put words into the form of a book for quite some time now.
Well, I'm so glad.
People.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you did that because, just going through your book and reading about some of your experiences that you had, as you're growing up, I think a lot of people go through that and they're not sure where to put that.
Yeah, and at the time, I definitely didn't know where to put any of it. It wasn't until many years later that my experiences kind of came together for me and ended up being gifts and opportunities. At the time, they didn't feel like that at the time.
Yeah, I know for a lot of people, when it happens, we're like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with this? Well, in your book, you talk about absolute health. What is that and how do we get it? Because it sounds really cool.
Sure. Absolute health is a term I've given to call simply peace of mind. Absolute health is simply peace of mind. It's our essential nature. It's the way we were born to be. It's the way we are meant to be, but we lose connection with that essential aspect of our nature. That place of absolute health or peace of mind is where we have to be for healing to happen. We won't heal otherwise. The body-mind needs to be in a state of peace physically, mentally, emotionally for healing to happen. That place of absolute health or peace of mind is also where we need to be to shift anything that's going on in our lives that's feeling challenging, a circumstance or situation. We get clear, we find solutions, we get inspired to act from a place of inner peace. We don't get clear from trying, from struggling, from trying to fix things or change things or doing. We get clear from that place of inner peace, from that place of absolute health. That place of absolute health is where healing happens. that place of absolute health is where we can manifest even miracles, even apparent miracles in our lives. And we get there by simply being here now, letting go of the trying, letting go of the doing. It doesn't mean that we never take action. And I think I write this very succinctly in the book as well. It doesn't mean that we just wait around for things to change or happen. But things happening, things changing, healing happening, comes from a place of peace, arises from that place of equanimity, that peace mentally, emotionally, and physically, where the body is in a state to heal or repair itself, and where we can receive insights and information and clarity about what we may need to do, how we might need to act if we're dealing with a circumstance or situation that we would like to change. That was a long answer to a very short question.
But I'm glad you went into that, because when we look at just how we can improve our health, most people are so used to, I have to be doing something. So we're so stuck in the doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The act of doing, the act of trying creates stress in the mind and the body. So again, it doesn't mean that we don't do, that we don't take action, but that action arises from a place of inspiration and peace that comes from stopping to pause and just be present, to be here now. And often we're fueled by emotions when we think we have to try to do something, when we have to do something to get better, or do something to change a situation in our life. And what is that emotion that we're usually fueled by? It's usually fear. It's a what if feeling, or what if thought. What if this happens? What if I have this illness? What's going to happen? What if the situation doesn't change? And rather than being fueled by being driven by that emotion of fear or worry, if we can surrender to the present moment, to be present with those feelings shift, and we find a peace, a place of peace. We may need to do that often. You know, we navigate the journey of life, and thoughts and feelings arise, and we're never going to be free from feelings. But it's by surrendering to the experience of the feeling that the feeling can shift, and it's by surrendering to the experience that we experience peace. And that again is where healing happens, where clarity arises, and where we will know what to do if we're meant to take action.
Oh my goodness, I love that, because what an empowering place to come from if we go into that space.
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't get this for many, 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 many years. I was always trying to fix things or change things or get things done. And it was actually through my own experiences of illness and dis-ease that I learned about the power of just simply stopping to pause and just be in the moment.
I love that. And I really like how your book talks about multitasking, because we're in this society. It's like we can't be busy enough. We have to do 10 things at once. How does that impact us?
It's not healthy. It weakens the mind, it weakens the body, it makes us actually less efficient, it decreases our ability to remember. It affects all systems of our body negatively, even though we may think we do it really well and it's working for us. Our brain wasn't designed to do that.
Yeah, I've heard it called what they call it, task switching, because it's not really multitasking. And I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but I know that nowadays it just feels impossible, when, like in the 80s, that was like a real buzzword.
Why do we do that? Why does our culture promulgate that notion that busyness is good and getting things done is good? And gee, if I can, read my email and talk on the phone, or open my mail, my snail mail envelopes at the same time, that's really good. I'm getting a lot done. Or I can chop vegetables and talk on the phone at the same time. It's not ultimately supportive, nurturing, healthy for our brains, our minds, and our bodies. And in fact, a lot of the quote ADD issues that we have today, they're multifactorial, but this culture of doing, this culture of not being present that we instill upon our children as well can definitely cultivate that issue as well.
Yeah, it would seem that we're being pulled further apart from being in the moment when we engage in that kind of activity.
Right, absolutely. Right.
Well, your book talks also about emotional acceptance, and I'd love for you to go over that with our listeners.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I talk about emotional acceptance as a path to healing. The notion of feeling feelings, even difficult ones, even ones that we're afraid to feel, we don't want to go there. And the take-home message is that emotional acceptance, feeling feelings, being present with what's going on internally, is health supportive and health promoting. In fact, I cite a number of research studies that have documented just this. There was a study in 2016, for example, of women with breast cancer, and one group of women was told to do everything they could in their capacity to fight the disease, as if the disease were a bad thing to be gotten rid of. Just fight it, fight it, fight it. The other group was told to be present with all the feelings that were coming up around their diagnosis, and they were given various tools, self-expressive tools, to get in touch with their feelings, no matter how difficult those feelings were. Maybe they were fearful, maybe they were thinking of their mortality, maybe they were depressed, maybe they were hopeless, maybe whatever the feelings were, anger, rage, frustration. Take-home message again is that feeling feelings was health promoting and health supporting. The women who were able to be with feelings, even difficult ones, had less symptoms of sickness, had improved findings on various laboratory types of testing. Since then, other studies have been done similar, akin to this notion of exploring feeling feelings rather than avoiding or suppressing them. Studies on anxiety and depression have shown that being present with the anxiety, being present with the worry, being present with the sadness, the feelings of depression, these actually help those, quote, conditions remit rather than avoiding them or suppressing them. And further studies have shown that feeling feelings, even difficult ones, can lead to longer, healthier lives. Sometimes longer lives are not necessarily healthier given the technological advances of Western medicine. They're just longer lives, but they're not necessarily healthier or happier. But studies have shown that feeling feelings, even difficult ones, have led to longer, healthier, and happier lives. So again, the take-home message is feeling feelings is supportive. It's nourishing. What we resist persists. Being with what is can ease it. Now, it doesn't mean we stay stuck in those emotions, that we ruminate, that we persist in our feelings of anger or frustration. It's simply about being present with them. And throughout the book, I offer tools on how to cultivate self-awareness, to be present with feelings, but not to stay stuck in the gear of that feeling. These tools enable us to be present with them in such a way that we can move through them and beyond them. That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, because we seem like we're in this society, as much as we were with multitasking, also of suppressing our feelings and not being real about them. And so a lot of people are like, okay, I just have to shove this down and deal with it some other day because I've got XYZ to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And our culture doesn't typically teach us to do that. I didn't grow up learning to feel feelings. My medical education didn't teach me about cultivating self-awareness. It was the psychiatrist that one goes to if one is having issues of the psyche, and the magic pill for difficult feelings was and continues to be, for the most part, a medicine in the form of a pill.
You had this quote in your book that kind of really stuck with me, and I'd love for you to expand on this for our listeners. You say, healing is always a return home to inner peace, no matter what. And I think sometimes people look at that and go, well, I don't think I've ever felt inner peace.
Wow. Wow. Well, yes, I talk about healing, and I offer a more expanded view of healing than we traditionally think of, even in a lot of the holistic and integrative health communities. I talk about healing, as you just mentioned, as a return home to inner peace. And again, it's that place where healing happens, this place of inner peace. But I also mentioned that healing may not necessarily be a return to the physical body. That place of inner peace is where we need to be if we're going to improve the health of the physical body. And I have to say parenthetically that there's no real separation between the physical body, the mind, the emotions, the psyche. So I'm just using that for kind of clarification purposes. But in the true nature of of reality, thoughts, emotions, and physical symptoms are absolutely ineffably linked. So anyhow, getting back to this notion of healing as a return home to inner peace, I explain that it's not necessarily an improvement in health, although that place of peace is where we need to be to improve our health. It won't happen otherwise. Healing will not happen otherwise if we're not mentally, emotionally in a place of equanimity or peace. The body experiences dis-ease when the mind is in a state of dis-ease. But I explain that healing may also be a departure from the body. Healing may also mean death. And this may be a concept that's not easy for people to take in. And I offer hopefully some encouragement, some support around that notion, if it is a notion that's difficult for them to digest. That, we're all navigating this experience of living in a body. We're all navigating this experience of mind and thoughts and emotions, if you will. It's the journey of life. None of us get out of this life alive, as a dear friend of mine likes to say, we don't get out of this life alive. So I offer that if we could accommodate this notion that life, dying, illness, and death are natural aspects of our humanness, we might be more readily able to acknowledge the naturalness, the humanness of illness, dying, and death. And if we could wrap our heads around that, we might be able to be fearless in the face of illness, dying, and death. So healing is a return to inner peace, whether that healing is going to return us to our body or if it's going to take us to removing ourselves, in other words, leaving of our body, a departure from our body. And I offer teachings and also exercises for people to explore these notions. And if we can get to the point where we can become fearless around that idea that healing may mean dying, we may even return to our bodies in a better state of health, because it's the fear of illness, it's the fear of dying, it's the fear of death that can actually make us sick and keep us sick. The moment our body-mind is in a state of anxiety, we are in a state of dis-ease, we are in a state of disease in the body. We cannot heal if we're experiencing anxiety. Healing only happens from that place of peace.
Well, that makes
I don't know
perfect.
if I answered your question. I went off on a little bit of a tangent in terms of how I've expanded this notion of healing.
No, that makes perfect sense, because here we are as the Western culture, we are very uncomfortable talking about feelings, death, anything that's surrounding that. And since we are going through a time where we are seeing a lot of that, we're seeing a lot of people that we love or care about. Everyone knows somebody that has passed recently. So I think it's a good discussion to have on what that looks like, because absolute health may not be returning back to the body, and that's okay. Getting to that place, that's okay.
Right. That was beautifully put.
Oh, well, I learned it from your book.
Oh, gee, thank you.
Yeah, well,
I'm truly honored, Marianne. I'm truly
oh,
honored.
well, I mean, and it's true though. I mean, we really need to kind of look at things a little bit different. So I really had great appreciation of how you explained, that quote in your book, because I really feel it's a discussion we all need to have.
Yeah, and I'd love to elaborate a little bit more on these ideas, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
What I'd like to share is that, yes, it'd be great if we could discuss these ideas, these notions that, dying, illness, death are all part of life, blah, 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 but it's really easier said than done. We can think ourselves into thoughts, but we really can't think ourselves into shifting emotions. And there's a part of the book in which I describe a lot of unusual experiences that I've borne witness to, that have been studied by science, that I share with readers with the hope, with the intention that these phenomena may help them to be open to the notion that we may not just begin and end at birth and death. It's a part of the book called Beyond the Guest House, the Unseen World. And it's made up of two chapters. The first chapter, which is chapter 12, I describe the various experiences I've had that defy our conventional understanding of consciousness and space and time, my own personal experiences. And I also describe the wide body of very robust research exploring the notion that consciousness is non-local. It doesn't reside in our brains, and it seems to defy how we typically understand three-dimensional space and linear time. And it's a very important chapter because it is offering evidence for this unseen world, offering evidence that indeed we don't necessarily begin at birth and end at death. And I offer this to readers and I say, well, what if this were something you could actually wrap your head around? If you could really be open to these notions, that maybe the person you loved and lost recently is still present in another form, that maybe when you leave your body, you will be still present in another form. How might that change your experience of loss? How might that change your experiences around your own mortality? How might that change how you feel about illness, dying, and death? So these are very important. These are very important notions to get across to people. And I offer up the science because a lot of these fields of consciousness, and sometimes called parapsychology as well, which is a term that I think is often a misnomer, are marginalized and considered woo-woo by the mainstream. And I offer up a tremendous amount of that science I just mentioned that supports these notions. And it's science that hasn't, unfortunately, trickled down into my field, into clinical practice of Western medicine. But it's science that's been done by physicists and engineers and open-minded physicians and psychologists and others. And I also close that part of the book with chapter 13, in which I describe my own personal experiences bearing witness to seemingly apparent miracles. I've met with many mystics, many shamans, healers, and I have borne witness to phenomenon of healing and phenomena of matter that defy how we understand health and medicine and typical prognoses in medicine and how we understand reality. And again, I offer all that up to hopefully expand people's awareness and to hopefully allow them to suspend any disbelief so that they could be open to the opportunities for healing and miracles in their lives, and so they may be able to release themselves of fears around loss of life, their life, and those of loved ones, that this isn't the end. It's just a change in frequency like when we change the dial on our radio.
I thank you for going through that. My goodness, because it really puts in perspective. I mean, the more discussions we have on what it looks like for us to transition and how we can meet, because we're all going to meet that doorway someday, but how we can do it without the element of fear, I think is such a big deal.
Yes. Yes, and fear for our fear and the fear of those around us. We still horribilize illness, dying, and death in my profession.
Yeah, we kind of get caught up in how we feel about someone leaving. I know I've done that. It's like, I don't want them to go.
Yeah, of course. Me too. Absolutely.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Dr. Patricia Muehsam in regards to her new book, Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Here's a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here with special guest, Dr. Patricia Muehsam, and we're talking about her new book, Beyond Medicine. Now, before we went for break, we were kind of diving into this discussion of lifestyle, and I know in your book you talk about lifestyle as medicine. What does that mean?
Well, lifestyle is simply how we go about our day. What is our body-mind experiencing through the day? Am I sitting in front of a desk all day long? Am I being able to expose myself to nature and the sun? Am I moving my body? Am I resting my body? Am I moving my mind? Am I resting my mind? We consider lifestyle as medicine may be hokey and less potent than a pharmaceutical, but I will offer that lifestyle as medicine is more potent than any physician's prescription. How we go about our day, how our body experiences our day, how our mind experiences the day, how our body-mind, if you will, experiences the day, can make us well and keep us well, or can make us sick and keep us sick. So when I'm working with a new patient, one of the bits of information I ask them for is to keep a diary for at least 4 days of everything they're doing from waking to sleeping, including if they're waking up in the middle of the night. I want to know what they're experiencing through the day, what their day is like, what their lifestyle is like. And then we make gentle shifts if need be to help them transition to a lifestyle that will support activity and rest for both body and mind, because we need both.
You find that most people don't do enough self-care or self-reflection?
Yes, I do. And I don't fault people for that either. It's just not a practice that we support or cultivate in our culture. In our culture, for many people, I would say for most people, doesn't seem to allow us and afford us the time to do that. I share the story of one of my patients who came to me with many, many health issues. She was a young woman in her 30s. She had gynecologic issues. She had gastrointestinal issues. She was very depressed, feeling stuck in her life. She worked in, she was a paralegal in a law firm. She worked all day long, 5 days a week, in a huge, huge office space without even cubicles, without fresh air, high in a big building down in the Wall Street area in New York City. And she hated her job, but she felt she needed it for money, and she was in a vicious cycle. She couldn't get unstuck, and she was exhausted. She would ride the train from outside New York City to get to the job. She'd ride the train home. She'd have dinner and crash Monday through Friday, and the weekend she just slept. And she was exhausted, and it seemed like there was no time in her life for self-care. When was she going to take time to pause and rest her mind and her body? And I explained to her that, you know, for many reasons she was out of whack, and I talk about the 4 primary medicines, of which lifestyle is one. Food is the first one. Lifestyle is the second. Third is relationships and community. And fourth is purpose. And she was definitely needing in all of those areas. She was having a hard time eating food that was supportive for her because she was exhausted. And when we're exhausted, we often crave sugar. And our body asks for food that may not ultimately be supportive for us. Her lifestyle, as I explained, wasn't affording her time for that rest that the body needs to come into balance to heal. She was very lacking in relationships and community. She didn't have time to cultivate that. And her purpose, her life force, what we live for, purpose is medicine, is a healing factor. She wasn't even connected to that. She had no idea what her purpose or her passion might be because she was so exhausted. And in terms of having time for cultivating self-awareness, self-care, self-reflection, I suggested she just start with baby steps, little baby steps. And if the best she could do was just to go to the bathroom at work once an hour and sit on the toilet, not to pee or poop, but just to close her eyes and put her head in her lap and just belly breathe, that was going to help her to slowly, over time, shore up her energy by letting her have a little mini place of ease and rest. And certainly over time, that's exactly what happened. Little by little, she was able to shore up enough of those little mini breaks, minutes long, to find that place of peace and rest. And the more and more of that peace and rest that she got, the more able she was to be able to cultivate a sense of knowing what she wanted to do, having more energy and less exhaustion, so her body asked for more healing, supportive foods, and being able to cultivate more and more of those self-care activities into her life that are part of lifestyle as medicine. I explained that we need rest for the mind and rest for the body. We need activity for the mind and activity for the body. Exercise is an aspect of lifestyle as medicine. I don't even like to use the term exercise because for many people it's so loaded with shoulds or I don't like to do it. It's simply what I call minding the body, just tending to the body. So over time she was able to bring these elements of the 4 primary medicines into her life and everything eased up for her. And our culture, certainly, I'm living in New York City, which is a fast-paced environment, and many people who work in New York City work in fast-paced lives that don't afford the time to stop and pause and just be present. Like this person, all she had was minutes in the bathroom once every hour, but little by little that helped.
I like how you have that example for people that we could just take these mini breaks, wherever we are, like just kind of carve out just a couple minutes in order to really kind of regain that connection.
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, a couple minutes is all we need to literally change our brain and toggle our nervous system into the state of parasympathetic innervation, which is the state of relaxation, the state of healing, the state that allows us to digest, the state that allows us to sleep, the state where healing happens. And literally minutes. And I offer in the beginning of the book what I call the 5 absolute health tools. These are tools for cultivating presence, for being here now. And the first 2 of those tools are breathing and mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness and meditation is the second tool. And those are 2 practices that you can do just for minutes that will switch your physiology. It will change your brain. Go from a place of sympathetic stimulation, state of dis-ease or worry or difficulty if you're feeling difficulty, to a place of ease, literally in minutes, because of how they change the physiology of the body.
Could you walk us through one of those examples?
Sure. I could walk us through a breathing process. Would you like me to do that? Lead a breathing process?
That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
Sure. Well, this is a simple breathing process called abdominal or diaphragmatic breathing, which many of your listeners may know of. It's a process that toggles on that parasympathetic nervous system, and it can be done just for minutes, and it will change us in just minutes. So, if everybody's listening wants to do this, as long as you're not driving a car or operating machinery, get comfortable as comfortably as you can. You can sit, you can lie down. There's no rule for this exercise. I don't have any posture rules. I just ask you to be really comfortable. Take off your glasses if you're wearing glasses. And just slowly start to settle in and watch your breath. Just watch your breath to start. Notice the sensations of the breath in and out through your nose, as if you can breathe in and out through your nose. Do not breathe however you need to breathe. Next, what I'd like you to do is start to be aware of your belly. Place one hand on your belly below your belly button. Make sure you can expand your belly fully when you inhale. If you need to loosen a belt or undo a zipper or snap, please do so. So on the inhale, I want you to allow your belly to gently rise, to expand as you breathe in. Feel your hand moving outward. On the exhale, gently let that belly return. On the inhale, your belly gently rises. Exhale, it returns. Continue that in your own time. Imagine on the inhale that your belly can expand all the way down to your groin where your legs meet your torso. And it returns on the exhale. Imagine your belly can expand all the way down to your groin and around to your lower back where our lungs actually exist too. And return on the exhale. The next several inhalation-exhalation cycles, I'd like you to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And on the exhalation, let the exhalation be as long as it needs to be. Inhale. Exhale as long as it needs to be. Still being mindful of that belly rising on the inhalation and returning on the exhalation. And finally, I'd like you to inhale again through the nose and exhale through the mouth, but this time vocalize the exhalation. Say whatever you want to say. You can make it an ah or an ah or an e, whatever wants to come out, let it out. So inhale, ah, and let that exhalation be as long as it needs to be. And do that for a couple more inhalation, exhalation cycles in your own time. Now gently return to breathing however is most comfortable for you. Keep prolonging the exhalations. Exhale through an open mouth or just breathe in and out through your nose. Continue to cultivate that sensation of your belly rising and returning on the inhale and the exhale. And finally, let's close this little exercise by bringing our palms to our closed eyes, palming our eyes with our hands. Continuing to breathe with the belly. Softening any tension or holding in the hands and fingers. Keeping the palms over the eyes, gently opening the eyes into the palms. And when you're ready, release your hands wherever they'd like to rest.
I just love that. Oh my goodness, you could feel how connected you get just within those few minutes.
Oh, great. I'm so glad, Marianne.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And you know what's wonderful, if I can explain the science of that very briefly?
Oh, yes, please.
Sure. What I love about this, and I love using science to support all these tools because it just gives more power to the practice if we know what's going on in the body. When we let the belly expand fully, what it does is allows the lungs to expand more fully. The lungs and the digestive system are separated by what is called the diaphragm. It's actually a smooth muscular contraption that's akin to a swinging door. It's a swinging door that separates the respiratory system or the lungs from the digestion or the intestines. When we expand our belly on the inhalation, that swinging door, that diaphragm moves down and it lets the lungs expand more fully. And when the lungs expand more fully, they take in more air. And when they take in more air, there are what are called baroreceptors or pressure receptors on the lung tissue that sense that increased air, that sense that increased pressure. And those little receptors send an instant signal to the brainstem, that part of our brain under which breathing and other physiologic factors are under unconscious control. And quite instantaneously, without our being in control of it, only because we're controlling our form of breathing, we lower our blood pressure. We lower the rate of our heartbeat. We slow down our breathing. We turn on the feel-good chemicals in the brain. We ready our body for digestion and sleep if need be. We turn on that parasympathetic nervous system, that nervous system that I explained is necessary for rest, repair, healing, digestion, sleep, all the nourishing and supportive aspects of our physiology. And that's what belly breathing does. Just by expanding the belly, letting the lungs get bigger, there's more air, and it sends that quick signal to the brainstem, and all that good stuff happens. And it happens literally in minutes.
Well, you can feel how that really affects the body, and it's easy to see that. And I appreciate you going over the science because, hey, I love the science too. I want to know how all this works, and it's not all woo-woo.
Yes, it's not all woo-woo.
Well,
it's definitely not all woo-woo. We tend to think of this type of practice like yoga and meditation and breathing as woo-woo. You know, it's not like hard medicine or pharmaceuticals or surgery that really can do jobs on the body, right? But in fact, these practices are practices that can really support the body, bring it to that place where healing needs to be or that place where we need to be for healing to happen.
Well, and they're also supported by thousands of years of, ancient teachings for most of this.
Yes, absolutely. Ancient wisdom, the global healing traditions, ancient traditions certainly support all of that. And nowadays, I'm very pleased that we have another robust arena of science supporting these practices. But again, that robust arena of science doesn't trickle down yet, I'm hopeful, into the clinical practice, the teachings and clinical practice of medical education and medicine. So your doctor's more likely to give you a prescription for a drug than say, you know what, you need to take 5 minutes out of every day to do a mini meditation, or even 3 minutes, and it's going to affect your blood pressure.
Well, you talk about something in your book that I think probably affects people's blood pressure, but in a different way. You talk about forgiveness and how that medicine, and you often hear people say, well, I can forgive everybody but this one person because they hurt me, or I didn't like what they did, or whatever the case is, and I will never forgive them. How is forgiveness medicine?
Well, forgiveness is medicine because I'm going to have to backtrack on what I was going to say. Forgiveness is powerful medicine. Forgiveness isn't necessarily easy to do. And I explained that in order to forgive, we need to honor our feelings that are causing us pain or hurt or anger or resentment or whatever those feelings are. So we can't just easily forgive and say, I forgive that person, just like you mentioned. I can forgive all these people except this person. In order to forgive truly, we need to honor those feelings of hurt that we're experiencing that are leading us to feel unforgiving. And in order to do that, we need to be present with those feelings. And often it involves healing anger. Sometimes it involves healing other feelings, but it involves healing the feelings that are hurting. And it's only until we can heal those feelings can we come to a place of forgiveness.
Do you feel like forgiveness is a really big piece to healing?
I think it depends on the person. I think, healing is completely unique and individualized to each person. So it may not be one person's primary medicine, it may be somebody else's primary medicine. But as I do explain, all healing is ultimately emotional healing. So I call it healing from the inside out. We need to heal emotionally, otherwise we cannot heal physically. All physical symptoms, all physical diseases have an emotional component, and we need to heal that emotional component in order to heal that physical symptom or disease. We won't heal otherwise. We may very well treat those symptoms or diseases via Western medicine, and sometimes it's necessary to do so if those conditions are acute or emergent. But Western medicine's treatment of symptoms and diseases tends to push symptoms and diseases down rather than explore and cultivate a healing of the emotional links of those symptoms and diseases. So is forgiveness essential primary medicine? It's, I would say it's essential for everyone, but it may not be everybody's necessary cup of healing tea, shall we say.
Well, oh my goodness, Patricia. I mean, you have so much great information in your book. I mean, we're not even touching a tenth of it. Where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your book, and be part of your community?
Sure. Thanks, Marianne. I have a website that's www.transformationalmedicine.org, and you can find me there. You can contact me there. There are lots of resources and tools on the website. For anybody who's interested, I'm going to be offering an online Beyond Medicine course where we're going to journey through the book together over 7 weeks with working through the teachings and practices, and that's something else that people can learn about on my website. I'll probably be repeating several series of that.
Well, Patricia, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne, for having me.
Well, Dr. Muehsam, it has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Beyond Medicine's available to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, of course, ask for them to order it. And remember to support our indie bookstores. Again, if you'd like to connect with Dr. Patricia Muehsam, you can at transformationalmedicine.org for more information. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.